Aloha and how's it? Today we're talking all about how you can stop trying to become a LinkedIn influencer and what to do instead. So more on that in a minute. So how was your weekend? I got in some fun surfing over the weekend, though the winter season hasn't quite kicked off on the North Shore. This is where I got my almost healed up black eye. Um, Windy surfboard smack in face, but all good. So we had some fun beach family time. We even pulled out our hoodies for fall because it's like a cold and windy 75 degrees here in the mornings. So for those of you who don't live in a tropical climate, it's cold here. So you probably think that's funny. One other thing I wanted to mention that is timely, it is actually National Coming Out Day for those of us in the US. So I wanted to wish all of the others like me in the LGBTQ plus community a special day. I recently came out myself as lesbian, and it's a big deal no matter whether you are just coming out to yourself or others in your community. So all the rainbow vibes from the island. And now it is time for Mondays with Mindy. This is a weekly show at 3 p.m. Pacific. 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific, where I talk about all things LinkedIn profiles, promo, and pipeline, what I call the three P's of LinkedIn. So if you have questions about LinkedIn that you want me to answer, be sure to like this post, whether you're watching live or from the replay. Leave your questions below and I will answer them after the show or possibly on a future episode of Mondays with Mindy. But let's get to today's topic. Why are we talking about not becoming an influencer? Doesn't everyone want to be an influencer? Is there a difference between an influencer and a thought leader? So, why does the term influencer bring up like all these emotions or the feels for those of us who are intent on using LinkedIn to build our personal brands, attract new customers, grow our businesses? I think there's a bit of confusion because we assume all influencers are thought leaders. That is definitely not the case. So, how many Instagram and TikTok influencers are posting viral videos that are entertaining, but not actually impacting how you think? I can think of a number of them. I really like the surfing TikToks. I like very entertaining dancing. Show me that and I'm good to go and I get stuck in a rabbit hole. But they're not changing how I'm thinking about these different things that they are making videos about. So some influencers are thought leaders, but many of them have simply hit the followers jackpot, maybe gained some fame and end up wasting all of that reach on regurgitating other people's ideas. So there is a massive difference between an influencer and a thought leader. And real thought leaders don't go around calling themselves a thought leader. Like if you have that in your LinkedIn headline, please take it out. It doesn't look good. But they do exercise mastery when they create and share their content. So for some reason, what they say or how they say it or how they go about communicating an idea, it just sounds different from everybody else. They have this uncanny ability to shift perspective, attract effortlessly, and help their people initiate real change in their professional lives or their personal lives, whatever they're trying to influence. So the question is, which would you rather be? All right, more on that in a moment. Aloha, for those who don't know me. My name is Mindy Rosser. I'm the founder of Mindy Rosser Marketing, and I have a program called the LinkedIn Accelerator for those who want to go from 0 to 60 on LinkedIn with their profile and their network. I will put a link in the comments below to get on the wait list because the doors are opening. Drumroll here, October 21st. I'm super excited about this next class. I help superstars who feel they are the best kept secret in their industry to become the go to visible expert in their niche so they can get that next opportunity, grow their business, and scale their impact. And in this live, we are going to talk about why trying to become an influencer on LinkedIn is causing you to miss out on becoming a true thought leader and how you can actually start sharing thought leadership content on LinkedIn to inspire your people to take action and think differently. So, are you ready? I am. Let's do this. So, go ahead and like this post, whether you're live or watching from the replay, to give it some social love. Have you ever come across someone in your niche, in your industry, that is in a similar role as you? Maybe they've been in business for a similar length of time and they have a gazillion followers. Okay. I run into that in my space all the time. People in LinkedIn, yes, they have a lot of followers. Those who call themselves LinkedIn gurus or experts, lots of followers. On the outside, it looks like they may be very influential in the space. If you're like me, you immediately feel like a little bit discouraged or envious, depending, because they are like the competition that you're going up against, right? So you may start combing through their content, subscribing to their emails, opting into their launches, following them on all the channels. What's their secret? If you could just reverse engineer their process to become an influencer, then you'd have a steady stream of business opportunities too. They must have a ton of clients or customers if they have that many followers, right? Funny thing is that if you actually get behind the scenes with many of these influencers and they showed you their actual revenue numbers, you'd be shocked. You'd be surprised. They may have many, I'm not saying all of them, but many of them have this superficial influence and get a lot of engagement on their content. So they're getting that dopamine high, but it doesn't always translate to generating revenue. And that's the thing. Like, what are your priorities? Are they to become an influencer, to get notoriety, to get on a bunch of podcasts, to spread the word about whatever it is that you do? Or is it really to change how people think about something? Are you wanting to change perspective? I think that's the question. Do you want to go the influencer route, or are you really trying to change lives at a deeper level? So, I had a recent conversation with one of the very first people invited to become an official LinkedIn influencer way back when the feature first became available. So he's got, hundreds of thousands of followers on LinkedIn. He's struggling to figure out how to actually turn his influence into conversations or even engagement on his posts. So technically he's an influencer, but he has really low engagement. So most of his content had a half dozen likes. That was being optimistic. So pretty low engagement for an audience of hundreds of thousands and an international best-selling book. So technically, he's an influencer. But is he changing the hearts and minds of his audience? Is he influencing the way they do business? Is he impacting them beyond just being popular? It's really hard to tell. Maybe he is a thought leader, but we don't know because his people are not engaging with him. He's also not having the conversations he wants to have with his audience to even get their feedback on his work. So he's an influencer. He's probably a thought leader. I'm hoping he is because he's a very smart gentleman. But even if he doesn't, he, it's because his audience isn't talking to him. So, on the one hand, we have viral videos of influencers from TikTokers, we talked about, with tons of engagement, little effect on their audience's changing of perspective. Then, on the other hand, we have a bona fide LinkedIn influencer who has written a thought leadership type of book, but he's not getting any feedback from his readers to find out if he's actually changing perspective. So, what do we do here? And we may not fall into either camp, but I think it's just seeing the contrast that's really, really important. Influencers, thought leaders, how does that happen? So, in a recent episode of Brandon Lucero, highly recommend looking him up. He has a great podcast for digital entrepreneurs. He actually mentioned a concept that I really got me thinking around using mastery of whatever is your specialty to become a thought leader rather than just going straight up influencer route. So, and about Brandon, he actually lives what he teaches. I'm a part of one of his programs. If you try to follow him on social media channels, you will see that his follower count and even some of the organic engagement on his posts is lower than you might expect for a multi seven figure business owner, but he's a thought leader. So his approach to creating content is different than any others I've seen, though he uses many of the same mechanisms. So he is doing a podcast, he does do Facebook ads, Instagram ads, stories, etc. I think what's different about him is that he's not showing up to entertain you. He may use an entertaining way to get your attention, but his content is jam packed with ideas, concepts that totally flip whatever you thought about an industry norm on its head. So, in my mind, he's a thought leader. He knows exactly how to build demand for his products in a way that doesn't feel salesy. He encourages people to self select. He doesn't rely on becoming an influencer to get it done. He's not obsessed with the metrics of how many followers do I have? Did my follower count grow? Did I get a bunch of posts and likes on those posts? Like, am I posting every single day, multiple times a day to Instagram? I need to get my likes and followers up. He takes a different approach. And that's what makes him a thought leader in his space. And this is what I call a little bit more on the scrappy side, which I love, and going against the grain, which resonates with me. So I'm not sure about you, but I like this approach personally. And I use a similar approach for how I work with my one on one clients and also how I coach my students using the LinkedIn Accelerator framework. So becoming a true blue thought leader requires that you do the deep thinking, that you really deeply understand your industry norms, that you're willing to go against what everyone else is doing or saying, but only after you've proven that your process works. I think that's the key. Like, you can't just say things that are off the wall and you haven't actually proven it, or you haven't actually tried it, you haven't lived it, you haven't worked with clients. You can't tell stories that aren't true. You can't talk about a process that you haven't proven actually works. So I feel like this approach is very gutsy. It's kind of like coming out for the first time and really embracing who you are. A thought leader comes out no matter the consequences and realizes there will be an upside. An influencer, I feel like, stays in the closet because it's comfortable, it's familiar, and it's warm and cozy in there, and they know what to do. So let's talk about how you can take that next step towards crafting thought leadership content. Not just going viral on LinkedIn because you can take a pretty picture or post a poll that gets 100 likes. This is all about changing people's perspectives, helping them to see something they assumed to be unequivocally true through another lens. That's your mission here. So, the first thing you need to think about is mastering your craft. We talked about this a little bit earlier. This takes time. It's not always like the 10,000 hours that is often quoted, but you do need to actually generate results before you make a big deal talking about your unique approach. So you must test your process in working with some people who are open to a new way of thinking, a new way of doing things. And this is as you are mastering your craft, you're going to notice that you are going to iterate. You're going to develop your process. As you are working with people, this is something that is never stagnant. Like, you are never like, okay, I'm a master now, done. I have a process, I have a framework. It continuously evolves over time. And this is something I'm learning firsthand as I am teaching in the LinkedIn Accelerator course. Each of the students comes with a different mindset, with a different approach, with different questions. And I feel like it's helping me rethink my process and how we can do things better. So I'm never done. We're never done as thought leaders, as people that are making an impact in our space. We are never finished. We have never completely mastered anything, but we are on the path to mastery and we have enough results where we can speak with confidence. Okay, so the second thing, you have to know your industry norms. And so, what do I mean by industry norms? This is a concept that Brandon teaches, Brandon Lucero, that I mentioned earlier. But this is basically, what do people in your industry already believe to be true? So, when you're thinking about, for example, in this live stream is actually a good example of an industry norm. People in the LinkedIn space think they need to become an influencer. Whether it's an official LinkedIn influencer or whether it's just a bazillion followers, to actually generate revenue. That is not the case. The people with the smaller networks often win the revenue game with the clients that I'm working with. I've proven it over and over again. So to me, that's an industry norm that I'm flipping on its head. Like, you don't have to become an influencer to generate revenue for your business. So you have to know what these industry norms are before you can flip them on their head. And that part is tricky because you think, oh, yeah, I think of these things all the time. But you actually have to, like, make a list of them, go through them and think, are these really an industry norm, or are these just things that irritate me? So what do people tend to talk about a lot in your industry? Pay attention to some common themes. Another example from like the digital CEO realm would be, you need to have a large email list. So before you sell a program, you have to have a big list. And so somebody that would be flipping that on its head would say, no, a smaller list is better because you can actually engage with the people on your list. You actually have a more intimate connection with those people. So think about your industry. Think about the industry norms that you can flip on their heads. These are often what you're looking at in through a different lens. Like so for me on LinkedIn, I look at things through a different lens. It's not about just the numbers. It's not about playing the algorithm. It's really about the connection. So that's what you really want to think about when it comes to industry norms. Apply it to your industry. All right. So once you know what everyone else believes about a topic, you can figure out how to approach that same belief from multiple angles. So there are a bunch of different topics. Like if your email list is too small, if that was something you're trying to flip on its head, how many ways can you talk about that same industry norm from different angles? So there's a lot of content that you can create from that. Now, number three, you got to figure out what you believe. So, if you are like newer to your space, you're transitioning, you are kind of in a pivot with your career, with your business, this may be a little, you may have to spend a little more time here. But before you can help other people shift their perspective, you must know what you believe about a certain topic. Not what other people believe, but what you believe. You have to be very specific and clear on your beliefs for your work, your industry, your profession, your business. Very, very important. Sometimes we skip over this. We're like, oh, I already know what I believe. No, spend time figuring out what your values are. Spend time thinking about these concepts. The industry norms will kind of get you thinking around what you believe as well. That's why I put that first. So once you know what you undoubtedly believe, you can speak with more confidence to that topic. So make sure you are crystal clear on what you believe in your industry, your niche, what works, what doesn't, and how you're going to approach it. Then, number four, you want to share content that builds demand. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Thought leaders are focused on building demand. So, demand for their products, for their services, for connection, for continuing to follow them, which means that your followers are buyers or will want to become buyers in the future. So, when you're thinking about who's in your audience, you're thinking about the people that actually want to do business with you in some way. That could even expand to collaborating with you, that could be working on joint projects together. That could be affiliates and partnerships. It doesn't have to be just buyers who want to buy your program, but you want to think about the people inside of your audience. These people are going to self select when you share content that allows them to. So, thought leadership content allows them to say, thumbs up, I really like that. That's engaging. I'm going to respond to that. Or they're just going to stop following you because it doesn't resonate with them. So you'll notice that your sales process is not going to be salesy at all because you're building demand with your content. And I think a lot of people have this misconception around thought leadership like, oh, that's just fluffy. Like, I just want to sell my programs. Okay, well, I get that, but the thought leadership component is crucial for building the trust for people to know, like, and trust you, especially if they don't already know you. So you can't just skimp on the thought leadership content and jump straight to the sales process. It's going to be a lot harder to sell somebody at that point. You need a blend of the two. So make sure that you are really thinking about your thought leadership content, how that's coming across, how that's allowing people to self select and opt into your content and hearing more from you. So, number five, deepen and last of all, deepen your existing connections. So, even if you're just getting started, you likely already know 3 to 5 people who are in your LinkedIn network that would support your work in some way. So, you want to stay on these people's radar. Engage with them proactively. Get into your DMs with them. These are likely the people who will be willing to test your process as you're working on mastery, if that's the part of this process you're in, or willing to spread the word about your work. So you have super fans, and super fans are amazing. They tell everyone they know about your work, and there's this beautiful snowball effect that happens. So this should all be a continuous process. You're never just doing one of these things. You are kind of working your way through them at all points through creating your thought leadership content. All right, so in conclusion, your goal is to create more meaningful one-to-one connections with people, the people you want to serve, by adding them to your LinkedIn network, reaching out to them in a way that feels human. So my challenge for you is to think about just one industry norm that drives you crazy because you have a different perspective. And then think about how you could create a piece of content that would get people in your audience to challenge that belief for themselves. So you're thinking about one industry norm that you want to turn and flip on its head, and what you would say around that industry norm. All right. So, for those of you who are looking for that extra edge to figure out how to start creating thought leadership content on LinkedIn to create that demand for your services and programs and attract more clients for your business, get on my waitlist for the LinkedIn Accelerator because I'm going to be doing a free kickoff training on October 21st. Coming up soon to help you flesh out your LinkedIn strategy. So I'll see you next week on Mondays with Mindy. If you have any other questions or comments below, leave them as a comment, question, anything like that. And my inbox is always open if you want to message me directly. I am so excited. I will see you next week on Mondays with Mindy. Bye for now.